my dear children. You are back with us on our Rupahini Gurugedara program, and you all are welcome to our today's program. And here I am as usual with you to go ahead with our discussion on appreciation of English literary texts. Can you think of the lesson that I am going to do today? If I give you a brief introduction, you all in this teenage would love to read this story because it is something very interesting for you all, right? So, can you guess the story that is in your syllabus? Okay, let us move ahead and see. The Nightingale and the Rose by Oscar Wilde. And you can see that bird nightingale, and sometimes you might have seen this on screens and picture books. And then here at the end of the lesson, I want you to know who plays the most important role in this story and why. And at the same time, I want you to learn some moral lessons. What moral lessons are taught in the story? So, these are the main focuses of my lesson today, right. So, what does this bird symbolize? And you know that red rose symbolizes love, right. We will see. First of all, I want you to learn something about the author, and he is an Irish poet. He is an author, playwright and poet. He had to be in prison, unfortunately, right. So, thereafter his social fame and writing career shattered. After that shattering of his fame, Victorian society never accepted him again. So, what happened to him at the end? He died in France, poor and lonely. Think of those two words, poor and lonely. So, being such a popular and clever writer, at the end, destiny of life has made him suffer as a poor and lonely person. So, something pathetic, right? Fine. Then we will move on to the next slide, and can you remember he is an Irish poet. What's the name? Oscar Wilde, right. Then I think you have heard about this bird nightingale, and why is nightingale special in this story? What is it commonly popular for? As a bird, you might have heard of it. I know definitely in your childhood you might have heard the stories of this nightingale, how it was helping the kings and some other sad people, right. So, what role does it here in the story? So, I think if you have read the story by now, you may know it plays a major role in the story, and the bird helps the boy, right. So, let us pay attention to the title, The Nightingale and the Rose. So, therefore, you understand these two words, the nightingale and the rose. Both these images belong to nature. So, things belong to nature seem to have lot of good qualities and some values, like in the story we find characters like that. When you learn the story of Twilight of Crane also, again in that drama you find another character belong to nature, right. So, here also these two characters, the nightingale specially, living form, right, a bird, comes into help of a boy. Then at the same time red rose also symbolizes love, as well as through that we can learn some other lessons as well, right. At the same time, children, what do the other two characters in the story belong to? Right. So, we find another two characters as a girl and a boy. So, the boy is a student and a girl is also again a special one. She is a daughter of a professor, right. So, then you understand that they both belong to human world, and just because of that they have their own weaknesses, and we are going to learn what they are, right. So, then after that, student of philosophy, here we find laments for a red rose. Why does a boy laments for a red rose? So, there should be a special reason for that, right. So, then we are going to get to know that when we read the story. So, we find that the daughter of the professor has given him a target or kind of course, it is not a request, but that girl wants this boy to find a red rose and come and give it to him. And why? Because this student had fallen in love with this girl, and she makes the promise to dance with him if he could give her a red rose. So, here that is very special for us. Why? So, the girl has promised to dance with the boy if he could do something only, right. The boy has fallen in love with this girl, and the girl has made a promise to dance with him under a certain condition. What is the condition? A boy has to bring a red rose to her. Fine. We will see whether the boy is going to find it very easily, right. Then the boy who is a student of philosophy laments over a want of a red rose, shows a very lethargic attitude. He does not want to make any effort to find it. What he does is to weep, right. So, you can see when you read the things I have mentioned on the slide, the boy who is a student of philosophy laments over a want of a red rose, shows a very lethargic attitude. So, when it comes to the word lethargic, it shows that he is not taking keen interest and he is not going to find a red rose, but what he does is to weep. No red rose in my garden. His beautiful eyes filled with tears. I think that particular idea I have illustrated in that picture, right. So, a boy weeps and his eyes are filled with tears, and he knows that he can't find a red rose, and he says that I don't have a red rose in my garden, right. So, just because the red rose is not there in his garden, he is not making any effort to find it or trying to buy it in a shop where they sell flowers. He is not trying to get it at a florist, right. So, then we find that he is just going to say I do not have a red rose, that is all, fine. So, do you think his way of behavior, if he is really interested in finding a red rose, do not you think that he could have behaved in a different way trying to get it? Why does not he try to buy it at the market? So, can't he try and give it a try, right? Fine, we will see. He does not take any effort to find a red rose. I have read all the wise men have written, all the secrets are mine, yet for want of a red rose is my life made wretched. So, that is what boy is going to think, right. So, he says that he has read the things wise men have written. So, it shows he is an educated person. I told you right at the beginning he is a student. So, being a student and young, so he has this feeling or emotion of love, and but he is not going to be practical, and he says I have read all this and all the secrets are mine, but because of a red rose is my life made wretched. That is what he thinks. So, with this attitude and the way he behaves shows us that he is not a practical person, right, though he has read so many books. And again we get the question, or we get the idea, if he reads books, so he should have to have a kind of knowledge, and we know that the knowledge we gain through books merely won't be enough to be a practical person. That is something to do with our own behavior, right, and with our experience. Fine. The prince gives a ball tomorrow night, and my love will be of the company. If I bring her a red rose, she will dance with me till dawn. So that is his dream, that is his wish. He knows that there is a ball organized by the prince, and then he wants to dance with this girl, right. So this is a very natural romantic desire of a young boy to dance with a girl, especially with the person that he has fallen in love with, and then after that he dreams of dancing with her, but only thing is he has to find a red rose. At the same time, this idea of prince gives a ball. So it suggests us that it is that culture where they are going to associate these rich people. The girl has been invited to that ball, right. So then after that she is going to dance there. Then the boy also can dance with her if he could find a red rose, right. I shall hold her in my arms, and she will lean her head upon my shoulder. His dream of dancing with her is shown here, right. So this is a quotation taken right from the story. I shall hold her in my arms, and she will lean her head upon my shoulder. Thinking of all these things, he dreams how to dance with, but he is not taking any effort to make his dream a reality, to get a red rose, right. So is it clear to you now? That particular event is going to be something that makes him happier, because it is going to be a function that brings him happiness, at the same time an opportunity to dance with this girl in a big crowd, those who belong to a particular social class, the prince, royalty and royal party, right. So there this boy, just the ordinary student, is getting a chance. So he is looking forward to this. Only thing is, there is a condition. That condition is to find a red rose, right. We will see what is going to happen next. But there is no red rose in my garden, so I shall sit lonely, and she will pass me by. She will have no heed of me, and my heart will break. So these are the thoughts and feelings of the boy. Again he thinks that if he fails to find a red rose, what will happen to him? But there is no red rose in my garden. So he knows that it is something difficult for him to get a red rose. So if he gives a try at the market, sometimes he shouldn't weep like this. We don't know why, right. We will see. We will discuss these possible reasons later on, right. So I shall sit lonely, and she will pass me by. That boy understands that the girl is going to ignore him and go to other people, pass me by. She will have no heed of me, and my heart will break. He can't see that she is passing him and going around and dancing with other people. Why is that? Because he is jealous of it, right. What ideas are indirectly suggested? First and foremost, children, we understand that girl's love is something conditional, because she has given him a particular condition to find a red rose. Her insincerity to him, or else she is not sincere to him, of course, right. If he fails, she is not going to dance with him. So understand the attitude of the daughter of this professor, or else this girl, right. So we understand that her love is not very strong, deep rooted emotional bond, right. So though boy has fallen in love with this girl, girl is not going to love him back equally well, right. So she is having a kind of conditional love. If not, she shouldn't have given that condition of finding a red rose, right. The idea is clear to you, children. Now something that boy feels sorry for that girl's request is something that bothers him so much, right. What is there then? So The boy's doubts about how will he be ignored indirectly suggests that there is something that this girl is not ready to accept this boy in front of others, because now only promise is to bring a red rose. So, after that sometimes she is going to give the readers the idea that she is going to dance, and that is the promise that she had made to the boy. At the same time, it is not easy for him to get the attention of the girl amidst of the rest of the young men coming there. So, we as readers understand there is something between this girl and boy in their relationship. The girl is not readily going to accept this boy in front of others if he fails to bring a red rose. So, that is what we understand through that expression of the boy. So, she will heed me and my heart will break, and she is going to dance with other men, right. So, let us read what is there on the slide. So, the boy's doubts about how will he be ignored indirectly suggests he is not a key figure in the group that gathers to the ball. It is not easy for him to get the attention of the girl amidst of the rest of the young men coming there. So, as readers, we get a question: what prevents or keeps him away from such an acceptance, right? So, what prevents or keeps him away from such acceptance? So, we have to find an answer for that. So, that comes to our mind when we read that particular thoughts that the boy is having in his mind, right? That girl is going to ignore him, fine. So, up to now I think the story is clear to you. Still, it is something to do with this boy's feelings about this girl, how he is going to miss the chance if he is going to be a failure, or if he is not able to find that red rose that she wants to have, right. So, do you think it is very fair? We will see. Why did the bird Nightingale determine to help the student? So, now we get the character of Nightingale here in between. So, the bird comes to help the boy, right. So, the bird wants to help this boy, or not wants to, the bird determines to help, right. So, just because she thought him to be a true lover, this boy is considered to be a true lover by the bird Nightingale. So, this is very ironical, children. We will see whether the decision or the idea of this Nightingale that this boy to be a true lover is really true or not, right. So, if you have read the story, you may know, or else you have to read it and see whether this true lover is really a true lover as the bird thinks of him, right. So, anyway, now we find the boy is not going to take any effort to find a red rose, but his lamentation and his weep has made this bird to make a decision to help the boy. And just because of he laments over want of a red rose, and with all these ideas that he has in his mind, the bird thinks that the boy is a true lover. We will see whether he is a true lover or not at the end of the story, right. Until that, let us move on to the next slide and read what is there. Here at last is a true lover, said the Nightingale. Night after night I have sung of him, though I knew him not. Night after night I have told his story to the stars, and now I see him. So, we understand this bird that belongs to nature has feelings or thoughts about love, and she had been looking for a true lover. That is why the bird says, night after night I have sung of him, though I knew him not. So, actually this bird does not know about boy, but she had sung her song looking for somebody to help, and now she found this boy who is a true lover, and that she had sung for really in her song Love, right. So, she thinks that she got a chance or an opportunity to help a true lover. The song that she sang every night to the stars, and now he has found that person. Actually, the song of course was sung by this bird to find such a person, because we understand that she sings of love, right. So, just because now she thinks that this boy is a true lover, she is going to help, and she has a nice idea in her mind. Night after night I have sung of him, though I knew him not. Night after night I have told his story to the stars, and now I see him. Think of these words, children: stars, bird, and you find so many other characters or so many other creatures or things belong to nature. Now, when we read these lines, though this is a story of some adolescents, a boy and a girl of teenage, it is something like a fairy tale, don't you think so? The writer of course is a children's writer, and many of his writings are of fairy tales, right. So, similar to Hans Christian Andersen, he also writes some fairy like stories, right. Here also we understand that, because we find stars, and later on you will meet some other characters, and then it is more to do with like a fairy tale, right. Here indeed is the true lover, said the nightingale. Now, can you remember how many times he repeated the line? Here is a true lover, this boy seems to be a true lover. So, that is what she believes, right. So, that is what she felt, right. So, very ironical, as I told you. Then, what I sing of he suffers. What is joy to me, to him is pain. Surely love is a wonderful thing. It is more precious than emeralds and dearer than fine opals. Now, there are so many ideas we get when we read these lines, right. So, how lovely that expression is. How bird is going to think of his help or the support that he is going to give to this boy, right. What I sing of he suffers. What is the meaning of that, children? Because the bird is singing of love, and the boy suffers because of love. That is why the bird says, what I sing of he suffers, the boy suffers. What is joy to me, to him is pain, because love, of course, the idea of love makes this bird happy, and it is a kind of joy to him. But that very idea of love has brought pain to this boy, misery to his mind and heart, right. So, is it clear to you? What I sing of he suffers. What is joy to me, to him is pain. Surely love is a wonderful thing. It is more precious than emeralds and dearer than fine opals. Do you know these words, emeralds and opals? What do they represent? Emerald and opals, types of valuable gems. We will see. I will show you these pictures. Till that moment, just wait. Pearls and pomegranates cannot bite. Again, she refers to two other valuable things. Pomegranate is a type of fruit, but it suggests that it is also very expensive fruit, right. And at the same time, pearls again, something very expensive, right. So, what is this? Pearls and pomegranates cannot bite. So, exchange of pomegranates and pearls and buying love. So, he says that it is impossible. So, in good old days, before people started using money, they exchanged items, and they gave certain items to the value of that they could buy something else. That is how this selling and buying took place, right. So, pearls and pomegranates cannot buy it. Then bartering of goods, idea of that I explained to you, right. No, is it set forth in the marketplace? So, love is something that you can't buy in the marketplace. It may not be purchased, you can't buy it of the merchants. So, sellers, vendors or the merchants are selling items and things we need, but we can't buy love, right. So, he says, "No, is it set forth in the marketplace? It may not be purchased of the merchants, nor can it be weighed out in the balance for gold." So, when you hear the word gold, you know how much valuable it is. So, he says that putting some gold, you can't value that idea of love. So, that is something you can't buy at all, having any of these things, expensive, most expensive items in the world. So, we see that bird compares the spontaneous or natural strong emotion of love to the most valuable and expensive things in the world. But still, nothing can be compared to that spontaneous, natural, strong emotion. Remember these words, that comes out spontaneously, automatically, right? It is very natural and it is very strong emotion that comes to our heart or mind, right? So, the bird compares the spontaneous or natural strong emotion of love to the most valuable and expensive things in the world. So, it shows how much this bird values this feeling of love. So, she finds that it is something that cannot be bought or bartered, right. Then I have shown you the pictures. So, the first one is emerald, and then you can see pearls, and then opals and pomegranates. You can see the last one, pomegranates, as a fruit, and pearls, you can see a lot of things together. You might have seen pearls, and this green color, emerald, and then again opal. Opals also a type of gem, emerald also a type of gem, and opals have different colors. There I have chosen a mixture of green and blue opal, right. So, there are a variety of colors, black, blue, red, like that. So, the third picture of course is a picture of pearls. They use pearls to make necklaces and everything, and jewelry, and pomegranate is a fruit that we can buy and eat. It is very tasty. So, can you remember, the bird was telling the readers, right, telling us that paying or taking any of these, we can't measure the value of that spontaneous emotion of love, right. So, that is something to do with the heart and the mind, fine, nothing to do with material things. That is the idea that the bird is going to suggest us. It is something to do with our feelings and thoughts, fine. Let us move on to the next slide. At the end of the story, we understand these comparisons the bird made at this point is so ironical, right. So, she is going to make a comparison to show the value of love, right. So, at the end of the story, we find that this comparison is very important and is very ironical, and let us see why. The question, we can find an answer at the end of the story, not now. Then after that, the bird points out the immeasurable value of deep rooted spontaneous love of a person. That is the idea that she is going to tell us with all these comparisons that she makes. Fine, is it clear to you children, the idea of this bird to measure the value of love, right? Fine. What is represented by the ball organized by the prince? So, once again I am going to draw your attention to that. What is represented by the ball organized by the prince? So, it is a kind of party, feast, royal feast, right? So, then it suggests royalty and the wealth and the comforts of life they enjoy as a prince. So, at the same time He is the heir to the throne just after the king. Future king will be that person, the prince, right? So, the ball organized by this prince royal party is very important. Why? It is a social gathering, one thing. Form of entertainment, you find delicious food, music and all sorts of enjoyment, right? So, special invitees are there at the royal party, royal gathering, and rich and wealthy, socially accepted and recognized people are coming there, right? So, then we understand what type of people are going to be there at this royal feast and how important it is and what does it tell us. Their cultural or their ideas and their way of life and comforts they enjoy, the richness they have and everything, right, represents elite class values. So, ordinary people also organize feasts and parties, but to celebrate some special occasions. But just because they are in that royalty or lineage of royalty, they very often have some form of entertainment like this organizing parties. They can have that very easily because they have enough of wealth, right. So, this represents elite class values, high class values, right. Then symbolic of luxury and comforts they have. It is a subcultural practice and values in the same country, right. So, same with the same people because they belong to a different social group, they show their subcultural practices, not like the ordinary people and their values, right. So, they have invited all these guests belong to some kind of rich and wealthy families and they are socially accepted and socially recognized. So, when I tell all these things, can you think of a possible reason that why that girl is going to ignore this boy? We understand that boy is an ordinary person like, and that is why that girl is not going to take notice of him if he is not going to find a red rose. Actually, what happens at the end of the story, that is very important, right. This royal party is important. Because of that royal party, the student got an opportunity to dance with this girl, one thing. At the same time, he could move with these people who belong to this rich and wealthy elite social class, right. Fine. Let us move on to the next slide. Its elegance and grandness is symbolically presented with the images of, right now when we read this royal party, the details about this. So, the writer has used some images with the feelings and the thoughts of the boy, right. So, again with these images we understand how elegant that party is going to be, how grand that party is going to be. At the same time, this grandness, this elegance again represents something else as well. Musicians in the gallery, string, instruments, harp and violin, very sophisticated way of life, right. So, in this picture if you have a close look at it, harp is also a kind of string instrument. So, you have to play that just like you play a violin or a guitar, and it is bigger than a violin, and the way that you keep the harp is different from how you keep a violin to play with. So, I have included a person who plays the violin as well as another musician who plays the harp in that picture, right. So, there is a piper as well, and then there is a girl in the picture. So, it is just to represent only a few of them and specially to show you one who plays the harp and that the other one is going to play violin, right. Harp and violin are two instruments that represent again a kind of very sophisticated music, right, sophisticated life. How she is presented as a soft and delicate feminine figure there, right. So, let us see. So, when she dances, she will not touch the floor. Remember, when she dances, she will not touch the floor. Again shows her thorough practice. She is going to dance for the first time, right. She is a well practiced dancer at those balls, right. So, then after that her delicacy as a girl, very soft and delicate. When you take flowers and their petals, we say that they are very soft and delicate. Like that, the girl is also presented as that, right. But actually, she is going to be so. And he is jealous of, at the same time he is jealous of what? Other courtiers in their gay dresses will throng round her, but with me she will not dance. That is the jealousy that he has, right. Other courtiers, those other young men who is going to take her hand, who are willing to fall in love with her in their beautiful dresses, will go or move round her, and then she will not dance with me. Again that idea, right. So, in front of all these people, those who are going to have some very beautiful elegant clothes to represent that they are coming from a very rich social class and all that, the girl is going to ignore this boy, right, but with me she will not dance. Those are the ideas that come to the boy's mind, thinking of this dance, feast and royal party, right. So, we understand that she is a beauty, and there are many others who wish to take her hand and dance with her. So, the boy's idea, other courtiers in their gay dresses will throng around her, but with me she will not dance. It hints us that she is a beautiful one. There are many others who wish to take her hand and dance with her at that time, right. There is a reason for her refusal to dance with the boy. That reason is clear to us by now, isn't it? She appreciates those who are very rich and look nice. That is why the boy himself says, other courtiers in the gay dresses will throng round her, but with me she will not dance. Fine. The idea is clear to you. Now, the writer has very cleverly shown us that this girl has some different attitudes. We are careful enough to take that idea, right, very sharp, but we have to be thoughtful enough when reading to catch up these things, right. Fine. The writer has gradually taken us to get the idea that this girl loves these beautiful things and rich people, right. So, we will see what happens next. So, in the middle of the story, we find that Nightingale is questioned by some other little creatures like green lizard. So, green lizard again represents nature. As he ran past with him with his tail in the air, can you imagine a lizard green color? One, right, and having his tail up in the air, it questions the nightingale. Again the butterfly comes fluttering after a sunbeam, right. So, sunbeam means the rays of the sun. So, it shows that it is beautifully fluttering and flying, and daisy is a flower, and these three things, green lizard, butterfly and daisy, question the boy's reason for weeping, right. So, they question the bird nightingale. They question about the reason why the student weeps, right. So, what is the answer? Narrative style of the short story, third person omniscient limited point of view, because writer lets us think, right. So many ideas. He is going to give us some characters, and with the way these characters behave, the characters tell certain things, we understand about these characters and their attitudes. With that, we can easily understand the relationship between this girl and the boy and how much they have not understood in their relationship and what a silly thing sometimes this boy is weeping for, right. So, narrative style is a short in this short story form. The writer has brought this omniscient limited point of view. That means I have taught all these things when I introduced you the literary devices. The writer is going to make us think of these characters deeper with their behavior and with their attitudes, right. And he shows us a very close link to the nature. So, with these images taken from the nature, like now we know that red rose, nightingale, and later on we found the characters of green lizard, a butterfly and a daisy. All these creatures are talking, images are given the ability to talk, that is again personification, isn't it. So, here the writer has used this personification and made the story more like a fairy tale meant for small children. So, that is what I wanted to highlight here, right. So, we understand that the lizard questioned, daisy, butterfly all questioned and they gave an answer as well. So, they have got the ability to speak. So, that is a kind of literary device, that is personification, right. So, with this close link to the nature, the story takes the form of a more like a fairy tale, right. So, that is what I have mentioned on the slide. To close link to the nature, the creatures make it more like a fairy tale meant for small children, though it is adolescent's love story, interesting and creates suspense. He is weeping for a red rose, said the nightingale. For a red rose, they cried. Now, remember the creatures, right. One was a daisy, a flower, butterfly and the green lizard. Altogether they cried for a red rose. How very ridiculous, they cried. What does the reaction of Nightingale's friends tell us, children? So, they all heard that this boy is weeping for a red rose. So, then the reaction or the response, for a red rose, how very ridiculous. So, they are not going to take it as a very serious thing. They are not going to look at it as something that the boy should worry, right. So, there may be a reason for that as well. We will find the answer later on, because the reason is given out to us later on. Why is this going to be like that, right? Why do you think the writer has used these creatures in the story? To make it more authentic, at the same time close to nature, and to create a very interesting story. The little bird understood the secret of the student's sorrow. Now, who is this little bird? What is that? The nightingale. Secret of the student's sorrow, remember that part. She sat on the oak tree and thought about the mystery of love. So, usually where she sits is the oak tree. Then she thought of it, mystery of love. She spread her brown wings for flight, and like a shadow she sailed across the garden, right. So, there we find the little bird is more thoughtful, and she is going to confirm the idea that I know the secret of this student's sorrow. That is just because he doesn't have a red rose, and I am going to help him because I know the mystery of love. So, it is something very dearly, it's something that brings happiness and joy to this boy as well as to everybody when we are going to have that strong emotion of love, right. So, not only to this young boy and girl. So, we have motherly love for our children and father, and everything is there, and we love our school and everything. But here this bird is going to talk about this romantic love between this girl and the boy, right. So, she is going to help, and in that effort, what the bird does is not known to the boy. The boy does not know anything about this bird's ideas about him or how she is going to help. So, that shows this is a voluntary sacrifice of the bird, right. So, the bird is going to do a kind of voluntarily she is offering to help, but the boy is not aware of this. That is the secret of it, right. So, at the end even that we understand this boy is totally unaware of all these things, right. So, here of course, the bird's ideas, he does not have any idea, any way of getting to know how the bird thinks of it, but later on we will see what qualities are shown with the behavior of the boy, right. So, remember this little bird had her own decision to help this boy, seeing or noticing his sorrow. The bird that sings of love is going to help the boy, fine. So, the little bird understood the secret of the student's sorrow, how this voluntarily help will be a benefit or an advantage for the boy, right. So, let us move on to the next slide. She meet the rose tree at the center of the grass plot, right. So, there first of all she goes to meet a rose tree. Usually we tell it as a rose plant, but here it is presented as a rose tree at the center of the grass plot. Give me a red rose, I will sing you my sweetest song. So, very happily this bird is going to make that request, give me a red rose. So, why is it requesting for a red rose? That is the requirement. She wants to find a red rose and give it to that boy, and then after that make him happy and go and take it to the girl and give it to her, and then enjoy the royal feast, fine. Then my roses are white as the foam of the sea, and whiter than the snow upon the mountain. So, when you read these lines, children, so the rose is going to talk about the whiteness of its petals. So, the writer has used very natural, something close to nature, and actually it brings a kind of happiness to us and visual images, lot of visual images. This story is rich with visual images, right. As white as the foam of the sea and whiter than the snow upon the mountain. Now, can you imagine a picture of a mountain filled with snow? How beautiful it is, and the color of it, the same color is there in that rose tree, right. So, the flowers of that rose tree are white. So, the bird can't get what it wants. So, what does it do next? Next she meets the rose tree that was growing round the old sundial. She repeated the lines, give me a red rose, I will sing you my sweetest song. The rose said, my roses are yellow as the mermaiden who sat upon the amber throne, and yellower than the daffodils that blooms in the meadow before the mower comes with his scythe. Children, read that again. As yellow as the mermaids who sat upon the amber throne. Again taken another visual image, right, visual image of a mermaid, and then the color of her hair, right, and the yellower than the daffodil. Daffodil flower is again yellow, and that is, I mean, the rose in that rose plant is yellower than daffodils. Until when daffodils are destroyed by the mower of the man who comes to move the lawn, so the flowers are gone. So, beauty is not there after that. So, man's action destroys nature's beauty. Man comes with the mower, and then the blades of the mower will his scythe here, of course, he is not using a machine. Scythe is a tool again to cut grass, and then this man will cut them, and all these daffodils will get destroyed. So, there we get the idea, impermanence of life, like at the same time how man is not thoughtful, and even when cleaning it, all these natural things will be destroyed. Fine. Then we will move on to the next one, and I have shown you two pictures to give you that brighter than the daffodils. I have shown you the picture of daffodil flowers, at the same time a mermaid, right. So, with yellow hair and a mermaid sitting on an amber throne, yellow colored throne, right. So, her beauty, and it is given there in the story to show that color of the yellow rose is yellower than all these things, fine. But go to my brother who grows beneath the student's window. So, at the same time saying that it can't give a red rose, it suggests that go and ask my brother, and that rose plant grows under the window of the student's room, right. So, then and perhaps he will give you, give us a little hope, perhaps sometimes he will give you. Give me a red rose, I will sing you my sweetest song. Again that bird is going to make the same request. So, it flew up to that rose tree which grew under the boy's window, right, window, and then the tree shook its head. My roses are red as the feet of the dove. So, I have given you the picture of a dove, and you can see the red color of its feet, right, and redder than the great fans of coral. So, you can see the picture of coral reefs. So, red color coral, and then the flower that this rose plant has, the red flower, right, is brighter than these two images. Children, as I said you earlier, the writer here again has used some other images that are taken from nature, right. So, dove's feet and corals that are red. So, this story is creating a wonderful picture of nature, and he draws examples and images from nature to make comparisons, right. So, here he makes as similes, right, as red as the feet of the dove and redder than the great fans of coral that wave and wave in the ocean cavern. So, under the deep sea you can see some coral reefs, right. Up to now we understand that how much trouble taken by the bird to find a red rose for the boy who is unaware of it, and at the same time it is the third rose plant that it went has red roses, but actually what has happened to that rose plant, let us see. But the winter has chilled my veins and frost has nipped my buds. So, it gives a clear picture of what has happened to that plant now. But the winter has chilled my veins and frost has nipped my buds. Now, it is winter season, and so because of that the rose plant can't grow and the buds are broken like. Storm has broken my branches. So, and shall I have no roses all this year? Due to this, I won't be able to have any red roses all this year. So, winter. So, think of this particular situation. Winter season, the red rose tree that gives redder roses can't give a red rose due to some weather conditions that affected the plant, right. So, we get the idea that the girl knows that it is winter, and this rose, of course, this rose plant can't give a red rose. There, the relationship, the girl's target to get a red rose, and the time is very difficult for a red rose tree to give a rose flower. So, the boy has got a challenge. Who understands all these things now? The little bird who flew from rose plant to rose plant. One red rose is all I want. So she made the humble request. One red rose is all I want. Only one red rose, right? So very appealingly, she says only one red rose. Look at the mark of exclamation there, right? So only one red rose. Is there no way which I can get it? So the bird is asking for a possibility of getting only one red rose at least. Children, we understand how much trouble taken by this little bird to help this boy. As she understood, this boy is going to be a true lover. So think of her sacrifice. Think of the trouble that she has taken. So I have taken you to a very interesting point of the story, and I am going to keep your suspension, and I am going to wind up the lesson at this, because I want you to read and see what happens next. It arouses your curiosity, isn't it? Now, is there a way, is there no way which I can get it? So that was a question raised by the bird. And after that, she is going to face some kind of fate, of course, because this red rose is going to help her or not, we will see, right. Anyway, only aim of her is to find a red rose. Remember that very well. And let us meet again to discuss the rest of the story. And I think I have given you some important ideas along with the story. Note down these important quotations we have taken to show her sacrifice and everything, right. So, you better note down these things and be ready to answer some context questions as well as some essay type questions that you get in the test paper, right. So, children, I am going to wind up the lesson at this, and I hope to meet you very soon to continue my lesson. Until that time, stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.